Hello students, welcome to today's video lesson. Today we shall discuss the chapter From Trade to Territory, where we shall learn how the British came to India initially as traders and slowly took over our country, defeating the existing rulers. After the death of the last great Mughal emperor Aurangzeb in 1707, the empire of the Mughals broke up into big and small regional power centers. While the Indian rulers were busy fighting for land and authority amongst themselves, a new power emerged on the scene. The British had arrived in India as mere traders, but quickly became one of the chief contenders for the mastery of the whole country by the end of the 18th century. The English East India Company had the monopoly of being the sole British company to trade with the East. This right had been granted by a royal charter of Queen Elizabeth I. They became a typical mercantile company which thrived on selling goods sourced from the East, selling them at higher prices in Europe without the worry of any competition. During this early phase of developing European interests in the East, there was a fierce rivalry between the English traders and merchants belonging to other European countries, such as Portugal, France, and so on. Indian products such as cotton, silk, and spices had a huge demand in Europe. To safeguard their individual interests, trading companies had to resort to fortifications and arms. This made the entire situation very political, as the local rulers would not tolerate the military activities of the trading companies. This is how the Europeans became involved in the politics of the land. The English East India Company began its activities of trade in Bengal in 1651. With clever machinations and bribery, the company established a firm base in and around present-day Kolkata. They managed to extract a royal firman from Aurangzeb, allowing them to do business without the obligation of paying any duty. However, when the company officials engaged in private trade practices, they made the regional government lose out on a large amount of revenue. This created friction between the company and the Nawab of Bengal. The constant tension between the company and the Nawab led ultimately to a direct confrontation between them at the famous Battle of Plassey of 1757, in which the Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah lost due to the treachery of one of his commanders, Mir Jafar. Once the puppet ruler Mir Jafar was placed on the throne of Bengal, the company extracted maximum profits out of the state treasuries. However, due to the relentless demands of the British, another battle was fought in Buxar in 1765, in which the company emerged victorious again. This time, the company got the Diwani rights from the Mughal emperor and hence became absolute masters of Bengal. With rich resources at their disposal, the company went on to build their own army, purchase goods, and construct official buildings. This proved to be the strong bedrock from which they could make further incursions into the Indian territories and eventually occupy large parts of the subcontinent. Due to the enormous wealth the company officials started to make after their capture of Bengal, a number of them started fashioning themselves as nabobs. This was a great social lift for them when compared to the life they led back in England. On return to their homeland, this group of people lived the rest of their lives in pomp and splendor. To capture Indian territories, the company came up with novel ideas. They rarely faced Indian rulers in pitched battles. Rather, they used their superior diplomatic, political, and economic skills to enter the internal sphere of a kingdom before occupying it permanently. Company officials, known as residents, became one such instrument through which the company started controlling the internal affairs of several Indian kingdoms. Another method that was introduced was called the subsidiary alliance. According to the terms of this alliance, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. They were to be protected by the company, but had to pay for the subsidiary forces or the army that the company was supposed to maintain for their protection. On certain occasions, however, the company ventured into direct military battles. The 4 Anglo-Mysore wars fought between the rulers of Mysore, Hyder Ali, and his son Tipu Sultan provided stiff resistance to the ambitions of the British. Meanwhile, the Maratha Confederacy under the Peshwa was also brought under control after they lost in the Third Anglo-Maratha War. The Governor-Generalship of Lord Hastings saw the introduction of the policy of paramountcy. This gave the company the highest authority in the country, including the right to capture any Indian territory as they deemed fit. The early half of the 18th century saw the company armies taking part in several wars throughout the length and breadth of the country. A war with the Afghans was fought from 1838 to 1842, which saw the indirect rule of the company in that part of the subcontinent. This was a response to the fear that Russia could expand its empire into India through the northwest of the country. Once Sindh was captured, the only remaining independent kingdom was Punjab. The company annexed Punjab in 1849 once no powerful ruler like Ranjit Singh remained there to keep the Sikh clans united. To rule the vast territories acquired by the company, there was a need for a solid administrative structure. In order to achieve administrative stability, the territories were divided into 3 presidencies: Bengal, Madras, and Bombay. Judicial reforms started taking shape with the coming of a new justice system in 1772. A district was given 2 courts, a criminal or Faujdari Adalat and a civil court or the Diwani Adalat. The British, with the desire to bring uniformity in Hindu and Muslim laws, oversaw the compilation of a digest of Hindu laws in 1775 and a code for Muslim laws in 1778. With the passing of the Regulating Act of 1773, a new Supreme Court alongside a Court of Appeal, the Sadar Nizamat Adalat, was established in Calcutta. The most important figure in the districts was the collector, and his office became the center of power. The chief instrument through which the company could become the rulers of India was the army. It was the fulcrum of its power. With European-style training and weaponry, the army of the company became a very strong force. The British brought together people of various castes and communities and forged them into a modern army. However, there existed tensions underneath the gleam and the shine, since the revolt of 1857 was mainly a result of religious and caste discontent felt by the soldiers or sepoys under company rule. By the middle of the 19th century, the company managed to gain control over the whole of India, directly or indirectly. With the use of steam-powered ships, travel time between England and India was drastically reduced, as a result of which more and more people from Britain started coming over to take part in the colonization process. Thus, we see how a small trading company finally took over a large country like India after crushing several individual forces. With that, we come to the end of today's video lesson. We hope this helps you in your revision work. See you soon in our recap video, where we shall discuss why it was possible for a small company to take over the huge country. See you soon.